This is Calm AF, a podcast for humans who are hard on themselves. A podcast for the overthinkers, people pleasers, perfectionists, and overachievers. I'm Kristen Finch, and I'm going to teach you how to quiet that incessant negative chatter in your head. Because you know what a person with a calm mind can do? Anything they want. Grab your coffee, gorgeous soul, because today's the day you get Calm AF. Hello, welcome to Calm AF, gorgeous soul. I am so excited to be here today. Today, the day that this episode goes live, is a very special day because my new coaching program, Rewired AF, starts today. I'm so excited. Today being September 15th. I'm not actually recording this on September 15th. Today is September 14th, and I am doing a very special episode because, when things are happening in real time in my life, I like to share that. I like to kind of share my process of moving through things. So I'm going to tell you the story. You might be hearing noise in the background, which you're not used to hearing. I will explain all that in a minute. So there may be a spot left for Rewired AF. Right now, it's the day before we start. There are 2, maybe 1 spot left. So listen, you can just reach out. If you're like, yeah, I want to do it. I've been nervous. But let's just go for it. Reach out. If there's a spot, we can get you in. And if not, we will get you on the wait list for next time. So you might be hearing noise. Right now, it's not too bad. But the reason why is because over the last week, the shit hit the fan in my house. Oh, you guys, wait till you hear this. So I'm going to go into the whole story, but the overarching message here is you always have 2 choices when it comes to stressful situations. Always do. You can either go the panic route, panicked AF, anxious AF, afraid AF, or you can choose calm AF. So I'm going to share with you why it's always worth it to choose Calm AF. But let's start with this last week. And this week being actually the busiest 2 weeks in my business. Like I just talked about, my new group program, Rewired AF, is beginning tomorrow. So we were at the very end of a launch. And maybe you're in business, and when I say the end of a launch, you totally know what that means, right? At the end, everything gets busy, but it's the same whether it's a launch or you have a project or there's a big event, a wedding, a party even. There's the planning that you do ahead of time, and then there's kind of the lull while you're waiting for the event to get there, and then before the event, right before, there's a gazillion things to do in a short amount of time. So that's where I was in the launch of this program. People starting to get onboarded and getting their welcome boxes sent to them and all of the details, all of the last minute things that have to happen right before. And I'm sitting at my desk doing all the gazillion things, and I noticed water coming out the closet door, slowly moving towards my desk. So obviously, first thing I do is I call Dave. He was off picking the kids up from school. And I tell him, there's water in the basement. And he's like, oh, it's probably the sump pump. We just had a super heavy rain like 2 or 3 days earlier, and our neighbor's basement flooded. And so he was like, it's probably that. And I was like, well, I think it's coming from a different closet, but I don't really know how any of it works. Maybe it's connected. So I'm just like, okay, well, you get home and you come and figure this out. It wasn't pouring in. It was slowly making its way into my office space. So Dave gets home, and I was right. It wasn't the sump pump. And he's like, it's probably the hot water heater, because he was noticing that there was like a water around the hot water heater. But again, not the same door it's coming out of. So we call a plumber. The plumber comes out the next morning, and he's like, well, your hot water heater is leaking. There's this dent in the bottom, and the water is pooling in the tray. And there is, it's kind of spilling over around the hot water heater, but unfortunately, that's not where the flooding was coming from. He's like, it looks like it's coming from your air conditioner. Awesome. Okay. So we call an HVAC company and they come out the next day. And yes, it was our AC. Our AC is a dinosaur. A funny little side note story is the guy that was replacing our air conditioner, where he like pulled it out. He's like, so this air conditioner was put in the year I was born. Which was 1997. It's a very old unit, but when we moved in, we knew we were going to have to replace it, but we were hoping, like it's just one of those things, like you don't want to have to replace it until you absolutely have to. So listen, it's a beast. It worked for 4 years while we were here, even though we knew it was probably going to go. So, okay, we're going to need an AC, and the HVAC people are like, while you're at it, your furnace is also a dinosaur. And apparently when you get a new AC, it's like you might as well get a new furnace because they go together like Ramalama Ding Dong. So this is what's happening so far. Now is a good time to tell you about the previous owner of this house. The previous owner was a contractor. Now, what I have learned, often from the wives of contractors and from one of my clients right now who is a realtor, is that contractors are notorious for knowing how to cut corners, and they will often do that, not when it comes to their work, but when it comes to their own homes. Like they'll use scrap things to fix their houses, or they'll use leftover things. I don't know. Anyway, that was just the story. Listen, if you're a contractor, I am not accusing you of anything, okay? I'm just telling the story that I've heard. I'm sure not all contractors do this, but the contractor who lived here before we did absolutely cut corners. My hunch is that they decided to move, and they did a whole home renovation, and they did it very, very quickly and probably for as cheap as they possibly could, right? Because when we moved out here to Colorado 4 years ago, the housing market was even hotter than it is today, if you can imagine. So just some examples of how the contractor cut corners. The floor they put in, if you've ever been or have Pergo floor, you know that it's like this art and science of setting up all of the planks. It's like a puzzle, and like you have to get everything perfectly aligned and perfectly measured, and then it just fits normal and it's perfect. Well, ours does not. Ours, you can actually slide some of the pieces. Like, those old little puzzle games where you like slide the little squares until you get to it's like that. That is what our flooring is. Now, something I should tell you too is like a lot of these things we did not realize until we moved in. And I think they knew that. So there's the Pergo floor that does that. We have a cabinet that just doesn't open all the way. It opens like 6 inches because of the molding on the window. And one of our cabinet drawers, you can only open it if the dishwasher is open. So cutting corners. And what the previous owner did in the basement when they renovated the basement was he smushed all the mechanicals into a tiny spot against the back wall, and then he built a wall around it. He did not build like a closet that you could go into. He just built a wall around the closets. He put 2 doors on the ends so that you could open the doors and access some of the equipment. But really you had to like climb over things. Like every single repair person we've had here in the last 4 years looks at this mechanical closet. It's not even a closet because you can't go in it. And they're always like, what the hell is this? And we were constantly having to apologize for them having to like climb over something or reach around something in order to do their job. Anyway, as you might guess, as we're learning all of these things need to be replaced, we're going to have to tear this wall down. So They're here right now, and they are having to drill into walls, and they're having to cut out drywall, and they found this wire that's like connected to the doorbell, but it was like attached to the furnace. I don't know. There's a lot happening where we have a house full of people, a house full of walls with holes in them now, and everybody is just kind of laughing because what else can you do? So this leaking hot water heater likely is going to lead to an entire house makeover because listen, once you get started, oh, well, if we do that, we need to do that. Now, we were anticipating none of this. A week ago, when I'm sitting at my desk and I noticed that the water's starting to come in, none of this was on our radar. And the timing, right at the end of my lunch, in my office, was not convenient. And also, let's not forget the scariest piece of this. It's going to cost a fortune. So unexpected change, unexpected finances, inconvenient timing, the trifecta necessary to send a human brain into full-on panic. And I will admit, I have had my moments of, oh my God, holy shit. Or, why is this happening right now? Like, really? Now? Or, oh my God, how are we going to pay for all of this? My brain is going there, but I am still choosing calm AF. More accurately, I am deciding every 10 minutes or so to choose calm AF. And this is my message for you today, is that you always have a choice. No matter what the circumstance is, no matter if it's an unexpected house project or the loss of a person or the loss of a job or a change that you weren't expecting, you always have a choice. Panicked AF or calm AF. Truly, no matter what the situation. Now, sometimes people like to argue with me. No, I can't. I tried to control it. I tried to calm down, but I just couldn't. I can't figure it out. My brain... Of course you can. You absolutely have the choice. Listen, I couldn't control the water in the basement. I couldn't control that the AC and the furnace and the hot water heater needed to be replaced or that a wall needs to be torn down. I couldn't control the timing of all of this happening. Those things are absolutely out of my control, but I always have control over the thoughts that I'm going to think about these things. And when I choose my thoughts, that will determine how I feel about it. If I am thinking the thoughts, oh my God, this is awful, this timing, why is this happening to us? How are we going to manage all of this? How are we going to figure this out? If I am going there in my brain, those thoughts are creating the feeling of panic. And it's a choice to choose those thoughts. Most people, like I said, like to argue. They think they can't. I can't control it. Those thoughts just pop right into my head. Yes, those are the first thoughts that pop into your head. Those were the first thoughts that popped into my head. Because our brains are designed to go to the worst case scenario. Always. Our brains are always looking for danger. Your first few thoughts are probably going to be panic or anxious thoughts. But if you aren't practicing calm AF thoughts on purpose, ahead of time, every day, they aren't going to do you any good when shit hits the fan, right? You can't just try and access calm if you haven't practiced the thoughts that create calm, right? When the unexpected happens, when something inconvenient or expensive shows up, when something bad happens, sometimes people think the answer is just to make sure you're prepared for every little thing that could ever go wrong. But that just creates fragile peace, right? Here's an example. I could feel stressed about how much this is going to cost. I could spend all my time worrying about the money, and I could wait until I figure it out to feel better. Like, oh, we do have the money. Oh, we can figure this out, and then feel better. Or I could remember ahead of time that I always figure everything out. Because I do. And so do you. Think about this. You always figure it out. Think about the most stressful, unexpected things you've ever experienced in your life. You have gotten through it. You have figured out how to handle it. You have figured it out because that's just what you do. There isn't a lot of other options when things happen but to figure them out. So if you brought that thought with you and that knowledge with you, and you reminded yourself of that all the time, I always figure everything out. Everything that's ever happened to me, I have figured it out. If you deeply believe that thought, if it was a thought that you practiced believing when everything was okay, not just try and believe it when things aren't okay, I figure this out. I will figure out what to do. I can handle anything that comes my way because those thoughts are true. If you practice those thoughts often until that neural connection became stronger, then instead of panicking until you figure out how to fix the problem, you can choose calm AF ahead of time. The reason why I am able to stay calm and centered when bad things happen or unexpected things happen is not because I'm special, it's because I practice thinking this way ahead of time. One of my favorite thoughts is I figure everything out. I think that thought all the time when little tiny things go wrong and when big things go wrong. I always figure things out. It's just who I am. It's just what I do. If I know that I have been able to figure out everything up until now, and I know that one way or another we will make this work, I can choose to trust. I can lighten up. Instead of being freaked out for a week, I can choose calm AF. You always have a choice. And let me just remind you that anxiety, worry, and panic have never led you to figuring out your problems. I know people like to think, oh, the more I worry, I have to worry about this. This is important to worry about this. I have to worry so I can figure it out. No, that's not how it works. Worrying shuts down that part of your brain. Worry and anxiety block you from the higher level thinking required to figure out solutions, to solve problems. Creativity is blocked when you are in a worry pattern. It's never productive use of your time, worrying. Calm AF is always the better choice. You just have to choose it. You just have to practice it, not just pull it out when shit hits the fan, practice it on purpose all the time. I tapped into calm AF on purpose as soon as I saw that water coming towards me at my desk. And every other unexpected thing that's happened since that, I have tapped into and chosen calm AF. Now, my brain likes to panic now and then, but I remember how inefficient and what a time and life suck that is. And then I just gently bring myself back to calm. And here's what I'm thinking about this whole thing now. Because I haven't been panicking, because I've been thinking about like, oh, we'll just figure it out. And then what comes next is, oh my gosh, this is totally going to up-level my home. I am so excited for this major up-level because I know that it's going to lead to an up-level in my life. That's how energy works. And that feeling feels amazing. Even though we are shelling out money and we are displaced because my office, like all of it, it's so worth it. It's so going to be worth it. And the reason why I can tap into that is because I practice it. Okay? You always have a choice and you can always choose calm. I love you guys so much. I will see you next week. Thanks for listening. And before you go, one more thing. So as you know, I am slightly obsessed with helping as many humans tap into their calm AFness as possible. So if this podcast has helped you, would you please leave a review, make sure you're subscribed, and share it with your friends. Also, make sure you head on over to KristenFinch.com to see how you can work with me. You can sign up for my emails and get any other goodies I have available. Until next week, I love you so much. I am so grateful that you're here. I'll see you next time.